this email? What does it mean?
Communication is the imparting or exchanging of information or news.
The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
Conversation is the oral exchange of sentiments, observations, opinions, or ideas.
Forbes Books Radio presents The Conversation with Clinton M. Padgett.
Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Patti Johnson, founder and former CEO of People Results and best-selling author of Make Waves. We pick up our discussion with Patti explaining the role of trust within a team and giving advice for how to build trust as a leader.
I think one of the things leaders that I see struggle with the most, and I've struggled myself, it's that balance between, especially when things are bumpy. Often in change, you're going to go through some tough times. It's going to be bumpy. How can I be honest with you, but also optimistic? How can I be hopeful, but realistic? There's a little bit of an art to that, and that's a very important part of trust. I think, because it is, I believe you're being honest with me. I believe you're being truthful with me. Because I think I've seen leaders swing one direction or the other. One, everybody knows this is a challenge. We're struggling with how we do this. We got to work in a new way. We don't know how to do it. And the leader is happy talk, happy talk, happy talk. And so what happens? The team's like, does she not know what's going on? No, everything is not perfect. She clearly doesn't understand. Likewise, if it is, the leader who's like, I know, senior management said we have to do it. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work, but we got to give it a try, I guess. So you've got that person who's just literally dumping their soul of every worry they have, and everybody, oh my gosh, if he's not excited about it, then what? And that blend of the middle, I think, is the way that, that you get that trust. I've always believed in, yes, it is tough. It is, I know that is not working right now. And then, but shift to, what are we going to do right now? What can we do right now to improve the situation? May not be perfect. And I also think in the times of change, I always coach leaders, you need to let people know there are going to be bumps and setbacks. Don't be surprised. We're doing something completely new, completely different. We're offering a brand new service to the market. We've never done it before. We're going to have some setbacks. We're going into a brand new market. We've never been in Atlanta before. We don't know. We're building up an office there. We will have setbacks. We'll figure it out. That "we'll figure it out" mantra really helps you with trust, I think, because you can't just be Pollyanna, everything's perfect and it's good, because then people think you're not being truthful.
Right. And to your point, you can't also be Eeyore, where the cloud is always raining on you all day long.
You can't. No, you can't not and lead other people, because, then it just feels hopeless.
Yeah, we touched on communication a little bit. So what are some communication habits that really distinguish successful wave makers from those who maybe struggle to get buy-in?
Right. I think, communication is such an important part of the change. It is the engine underneath any change, really. And I know conversations is really the focus of this podcast. I think there's a lot of them. I think we just mentioned the one of being, honest but truthful. I think having to know all the answers. I've seen so many leaders think, I'm supposed to know all the answers. Therefore, they do one of two things. They either kick the can down the road. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to say whatever's easiest for me to say right now. I saw a leader one time during an acquisition. You've been involved in acquisitions, there's all kinds of financial modeling, there's a redesign of the structure, the org. Stand up in front of a team and say, business as usual, nothing's going to change. And my heart sank in the back of the room, because I thought that it made the conversation on that day easier, but it eroded back to trust for this leader forever, because things did change. A lot changed. So they do one of two things: kick the can down the road, or make stuff up. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to say this. And in fact, it's wrong. And you guessed, instead of just saying, we don't know the answer to that yet. it's going to be a little while. That's before we can, as soon as I know more on that, I will let you know. Right now, until we do know more about how this is going to change, let's keep doing this the way we've been doing it. So I think that having to know all the answers is pretty powerful, because what do leaders pride themselves on?
Knowing it all.
Knowing it all. And it's part of their brand. It's part of, what makes us, I'm the leader. And I'm supposed to know. Your people come to you with questions all day long. So I think that one. I also think suppressing resistance. That resistance sounds like, really powerful, but people are going, if you're trying to do something new, especially if you're messing with people's sandbox, you're the way back to habits. I know how to do my job. I've been doing it this way for 10 years. And now you're coming in with this new technology.
It's only going to slow me down.
Slow me down. And what you don't know is it isn't going to work. So, leaders often want to suppress resistance, right? Want to squash it, but it's going to be there. So I would say, invite it in, understand it. Now, it doesn't mean you allow people to be, every meeting we have, everybody's going to complain, but structure it. What is it about that? Be really, more research based. Okay, well, let's talk about that. You said this won't work. Let's talk. What? Okay, why? What about it? What would make it work? Really be very fact based, and don't be afraid of resistance, because you may think you can squash it. Pretty good chance it's just going to pop up.
Yeah.
Somewhere else.
You might quiet it, but you won't squash it.
You want to know, as a leader, you want to know what people are saying. And the times sometimes when you get frustrated, you're like, we got to do this, we got to do this. But usually somewhere in there, depending upon the person, there are some people that are permanent resistors, and you know who they are. But often there's a kernel in there, like, that's good to know, because that can help us avoid a problem with a client, or, a customer delivery problem that we wouldn't have realized or wouldn't have planned for. So I think that resistance, be invited in, understand it as a leader. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but just listen and make sure that you understand it. I could go on, but those are a couple anyway.
Tying back to another earlier point you made, I think you were talking about attention spans of like toddlers to once you become an adult. And you had a quote that I was very sad, although not surprised to read. And it said that the attention span spent on a screen has decreased from about 2.5 minutes in 2004 to only 47 seconds today. And yet communication is really important in waves. So how can we overcome this short attention span?
Right. Well, I think that's a big topic, because I think if you are in a change, if you're going to have a conversation with someone, I always say you start with, who am I talking to? Well, if I know Clint is a headline guy, I better make sure I have my headlines down. And just based on attention span, you cannot go out with your 20 paragraph email and think anyone is going to absorb it. You've got to go in with, what are the headlines? What are the punchlines? And where do you go for more information? And if there are topics, and some of them are, and especially in technical areas where it is not just a headline, you've got to understand more detail. You got to figure out, how can I get them to engage and better understand this increased level of detail? But you gotta understand that attention spans have even gone down even now. I mean, even from when I published the book, it continues to go down. Because we scroll and spin, and you better get my attention in the first few seconds, or I'm probably moving on. So that's the world we live in now. And so I think being able to, also make sure when you are a leader, you are always connecting back to, why are we doing this? Why? And back to the attention span, one of the other things I coach leaders on a lot. I mean, how many times have I said to the leader, do they understand, why you're reorganizing, why you're putting these two groups together? Yeah, they do. They do. When did you talk about last? Well, I went about in detail on the all company call. When was that? That's about 3 months ago. Have y'all talked about it since then? Not really, but we did a deep dive. Everybody's got it. They don't. So that repetition of, you'll remember, this is maybe a sentence or two, it may be a paragraph. just as a reminder, this is why we're changing this. Those things are very, very important for short attention spans, because you've got to always tie it back. Why are we doing it? Why does it matter?
And I think people knowing why is helpful. The analogy I like to use is if you tell me what to do, I can do it. But if you tell me why we're doing it, I can actually improve it. Right. So
Yes.
if we're driving and you say, Clint, make a left, I'll make a left. But if I can ask you, well, why do we want to make this left? We're trying to make it to the airport. It's 5:00 on Thursday. Traffic is terrible. I might be able to say, well, actually, I do this all the time. And that's a terrible road, actually, at 5:00 on Thursday for the airport. We should go this way instead.
Mhm.
So if I know why, I can actually improve the process.
Yes, and what you're mentioning there too is, again, when things are changing a lot, you cannot be command and control, nor do you want to be. You can't process step your way through everything. You are going to need people to do just what you said, where I know what we're trying to do. I understand it. So I can make some independent decisions. I can use my judgment because I get where we're going. I know what we're trying to do. And even though I don't have the steps in front of me, I understand what's going to be in the best interest of our goals, So that's so important that people understand the big picture. It's also a sign of respect, and you're important, you matter. I want you to understand what we're trying to do and how we're going to get where we're going.
There's an early podcast I did years ago now, and I can't remember the exact quote, but it's basically this company had acquired another company, and it was a machine company, and they had everybody on the shop floor and doing introductions. And this guy raised his hand in the back because they're talking about a problem. And he says, you pay us for our hands, but you can have our hearts and heads for free if you just ask us.
See, that's a great point. And listening, asking for input, involving people. That's a great quote, and so true.
Yeah. So what do great leaders do when a wave of change begins that they didn't initiate? You kind of mentioned a couple where change hit them because there's an acquisition. They didn't really like it. But as a leader, what can I do when that happens?
Well, I think one of the best examples that we've all gone through recently was COVID. And I mention that only because it is a common experience. We don't need to do a case study. Like you started nodding the second I said it. And we remember what was happening where we literally, I know with our clients, we were making decisions almost on a 24-hour basis, things changing by the minute. So you have a global pandemic. I think the key there, very short term. This is the way we're going to do it today. When we learn more, we'll change it. You want to instill confidence that there's a whole lot of uncertainty ahead of us, but at this moment, I know what to do. You also increase communication. I know with our team, we had daily stand-ups every day at 5:30. And it was how are you guys doing? How are things? How are things with your clients? What are people talking about? It was therapeutic, honestly, as much it was work, because we were all, juggling. So we did daily stand-ups and continued those for several months. And if you couldn't make it, you couldn't make it. But it was very, very helpful. And it also made sure we stayed both in touch with the changes by the minute, but it also helped us, just mental health, getting through that. I think short-term planning is probably one of the key things, and you got to educate yourself. And acquisition, a company that has a different kind of business than we have, I better learn everything I can about that business. So you've got to back to curiosity and voracious learner, get smart on whatever's coming your way. You think about people that go through a medical diagnosis that they didn't want. That's an example of a change that happens, knocks on your door that no one wants. Well, Nina Newberry, she was on my podcast, and she, talked about how she coped by learning. She said information was really the medicine that helped me at the beginning figure out what I was dealing with. And so I think that's another very important action, short-term planning, education on whatever that new thing is that's landed on your door that you didn't expect, maybe didn't want,
Nobody makes a better researcher than somebody who's just gotten a bad diagnosis. They are doing all kinds of research.
Sometimes that's helpful, sometimes it's not, because it can be a scary place, but that's for sure.
I think it depends on the person too. I know my wife, so when my daughter, this is personal side, but when my daughter was born, we didn't know before she was born she was special needs. And then once we found out, my wife is a physical therapist, and she was very much, she wants to know the book. What is it, the symptom, what's it called, and what's the prognosis? And it turns out she has a chromosomal disorder that only 2 people that they know of have the same one. Oh, wow. So it's incredibly rare. Mm-hmm. And I was okay with the fact there's no book. Samantha will be who she'll be. And there's no ceiling on her. It's whatever she ends up being. So for me, that's comforting. For my wife, it's not. So, cause she wants to do the research and have all the boxes, checked. And I'm just like, hey, it's Samantha. She'll be who she is. Exactly.
I can relate to your wife. I mean, I think if you are someone who information brings you comfort, even if it may not be exactly fit your situation, I think that's back to what you have to know yourself. What is it? What do I need here? What's going to help me? And that's a perfect example of each of you kind of, just dealt with that differently. But if you know what you need, that's probably step one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, you talk about getting a way of going, but you also mentioned in the book that motivation isn't really enough alone to maintain a wave. And why is that?
Mm-hmm. Well, motivation is short-lived. If you think about it, if you're trying to learn to run a marathon, you're trying to lose 20 pounds or whatever, motivation is what gets you going, gets you that, I'm going to go do it. I know I can do this. I'm on the new program. But motivation is going to run out of gas. And so you have to have the actions and the work that goes behind it. And trying to do something different and think, I'm going to pump myself up. I'm going to, that's good, right? That's good. But it is, it's short-lived. So I think, we all have to be motivated, but having the actions and the steps and measuring progress, how are we doing? Otherwise, you'll be like, I didn't lose anything this week. Forget it.
Yeah, motivation gets you from January 1st to January 10th, and you give up your resolution.
Right. Yes. That's why all the New Year's resolutions by February 1, what is it like? 60% of them are gone and they're out, eating at Sonic or whatever. So I think that is, you can't rely on motivation because it's not going to push you through it. Your actions and daily commitment, change in habits, small changes in habits will be the thing that help you do something different, lead differently.
So we take this great leap and we start this wave change. But what do you say to somebody whose change fizzled out or failed? How do you pick them back up, dust them off, and send them on again?
Well, that's a great question, because most changes will have a point where you think they have failed. So I think the important question is, did it fail? What caused it? I'm kind of big believer in, and I know I talk in the book about, treat your change, both good and bad, treat it like a research project. The hard part is to set aside your emotions. Nobody was interested in what I wanted. I didn't communicate it well enough. I couldn't get the leadership buy-in. I guess I just didn't, get their attention, okay, stop. Get really objective. And get some outside help if you need to. Ask somebody who is not in the middle of it and start looking at, well, what progress did you make? Where did you hit a wall? Where did you get your resistance? Who did it come from? So many times I'll hear someone who tried to do something, and it can be as simple as budget's done. Budget's closed. You need $150,000, $200,000 to do that project. And the budget was completed 2 months ago for the year. You picked a terrible time to go make your pitch. Or it could be you took on a project that maybe there's where the human behavior gets into. Like, you're working for someone who's brand new as a senior VP, just got promoted. He is trying to make sure he does everything right, don't want to make any mistakes, don't rock the boat, and you come in with a controversial recommendation. So right there, you got someone who's going to find a reason no. So you got to figure out, well, is there a path maybe that's a little more palatable that can get that progress versus one big swing of we're going to eliminate this entire product. We're going to, maybe we're going to, try something a little different. And so, anytime things don't work, you got to know why they didn't work, as well as self-reflection. What could I have done differently? Usually there is a list. I think most of us would say in any change or anything we're trying to do, rare that it's going to be, I nailed that. I was perfect, But, if you look at it and say, what really happened there as a researcher, as a scientist, and then what is it telling you? Do I need to try this again? Did it fail? Why did it fail? Very, very important, because you're going to probably go at it again, some variation of it. And if you do, you'll be a lot smarter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there tools or habits from the book that you recommend people use daily or weekly to kind of stay grounded as wave makers? I know one of the things that struck me was I think it's called the idea circle.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that is more of having people around you that can help. If you're trying to do something new, people that can help push your thinking. That doesn't mean people who only agree with you. And, if you have two people on your team and they're like, they report to you and they don't want to push back, that's probably not an idea circle. Idea circle could be a handful of people that you might talk with individually or together, but people who know things you don't know, who will push on you, and say, you know what? I don't know about that. Have you thought about things like that? You want people around you to push your thinking and help you. They will also can serve as, depending on if they're within your organization, they can also kind of serve as kind of the seeds to help you get it going when you actually do introduce it. So, and it's back to, change can be lonely. It's not a solo sport. It's great to have some people that will, be part of that conversation with you and help you figure it out.
Yeah, I think one of the quotes I read that I really liked in that section of the book was people support what they help create. And I mean, they're going to be your biggest propaganda experts out in the workplace telling you how great it is because they help create it.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite examples was Julie Porter, who started Front Porch Marketing, and she didn't know. She was afraid. Like, how do I start this new business? I don't know if she was technically afraid, but it's like, I haven't done this. I don't know, how am I going to do this? And this talk about a really simple thing. What can I do? She ended up having, there were about 20 women she had over for dinner. And she had Italian food and wine, and they had a flip chart. She had a friend, and it was helping her jumpstart her business. And so all the women that were there that night, they happened to be all women, were from different walks of life. Not everybody was in a marketing background, people, the different kinds of thinkers, and flip charted and brainstormed. And she walked away that night, not only with some great ideas, but guess what? She had 25 people who were with her and what she was trying to create and what trying to do. Just a simple thing that I just thought that was a fantastic example.
So you talked about they came from different walks of life. I assume then you also talk about it in the book. You don't need 100% consensus from this group.
You don't need, especially, and that's really true within an organization. You're never going to get it.
Right.
If you've got I always say, if you've got 100% consensus,
somebody's not telling you the truth.
Somebody's not telling you the truth. Like, you might not be getting the straight story, but that's okay. You just want to get a core group of people that are with you, and then you got to bring other people along. One of the words we always talk about a lot, and you probably in project management too, in change management, you talk about stakeholder analysis, and that's really important to know who am I dealing with here? As a team or as individuals. Like we said, we know there are people, there are permanent resistors. They are the curmudgeons. They're like, I'm going to have to. And it doesn't matter the topic. You could say, everyone's winning the lottery. Well, I'm going to get taxed. Okay. So you mean, you know those people. We've worked with.
Sure.
Okay. So that's okay. You know who they are, and they'll come around when it's that's the way we're going to do it. So you gotta, you can't have these expectations that you're going to have a parade and everybody's going to be happy. And it's just not, if you're trying to do something different and hard, it's just never going to work that way, back to expectations.
Yeah, I mean, on project work, we start off with a charter, which is where we state the objectives and, what our goals are. And if there's 25 people on the team, they're not all going to agree. And so part of the charter session is to get their disagreements out so that we can talk about them. And in the end, when I say group consensus, I don't necessarily, let's say that you feel very strongly we should go left. And I feel just as strongly we should go right. And let's say we're both pretty stubborn people and aren't going to change our mind. To me, group consensus in the end means that if everybody else agrees with you that we should go left, I agree to support you in moving in the wrong direction because you didn't change my mind. I still think we should go right.
That's right.
But I'm going to support you and the team in going left because that's what we've agreed to do.
Mm-hmm. And I think as a leader, asking the questions when you don't have consensus, like you said, get it out in the open. I know there's a term that Praveda uses a lot. What are the tensions? I also think as a leader, instead of asking questions like, everybody good? Everybody on board? The things that are natural, to say, what could go wrong here? What could get in our way? If anything gets in our way, what will it be? What if we were arguing against ourselves? What would we say? So especially when you're at the very beginning of a project, you're laying out the path you're going to go down. I think as a leader, giving people permission, say what you really think, versus a lot of times, as you know, well, we're about out of time. We've got 5 more minutes. Anybody have anything? Everybody good?
Everybody's good, right?
Everybody good, right? Okay, good. So that is so common. And so I think as a leader, you want to really make sure you communicate it's okay. Now's the time. Now, it's not the time, like your example, 3 months from now, you're 70% complete. No, at that point, we can talk about changes and what we want to do going forward. Is not the time to debate, did we really go down the right path? Maybe we should. Right. Okay, we're on the path, so we got to figure out what to do from here.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
My favorite people are the people who are the boss says that exact thing. Well, everybody's good, right? Okay, I'll give you 10 minutes back. And this person always looks around going, well, I hate to bring it up.
Exactly.
You're like, no. But I'm glad you did because they have a valid point.
Happens all the time. I mean, most of the meetings we're in. Everybody good? Yeah, for sure.
So if a team is listening to this episode right now, and is there an exercise or conversation you think they should have after to try to start to facilitate this?
Mm-hmm. Well, it depends on where they are in the change. I think I think if you are in the middle of a change and you are experiencing some things that are going well, some things are not. Back to some of the classics. Clint, did you get your stuff done? Let's see, you were supposed to do, row C7. Okay, did you get that done? Okay, what about you? Okay, great. On our dashboard, then it looks like we're 90% green. Fantastic. Okay, happens all the time. That means everybody got their stuff done. Surely you can do that outside of a meeting, right? You don't need to spend time together, right? Did you get your stuff done? So I think the important thing is what's changed? What have we learned? What headwinds have we hit? If anything gets in our way over the next month, what's it going to be? Asking those kinds of questions those are very, very important for a team to have together. I also, a lot of times I know with my team, I would always say, okay, guys, if things didn't go the way we want them, I know everybody's bummed about it. Tomorrow morning, we're hitting it. Like we got to figure out what we're going to do. Okay. I know everybody's disappointed. We didn't want it to play out that way. It did. Regroup tonight. We're going to come back tomorrow and press on because we got to figure out where we're going from here. So I think, some of those things that just communicate honesty, transparency, and openness, listening. And again, the mantra of we will figure it out. We're going to figure it out.
That's good advice. As we wrap up, I have 3 questions that I ask everybody to kind of the round robin questions. So are there any leadership principles that speak to you personally and guide your day-to-day behaviors?
Oh boy, there's a lot of them, I think. I think the main thing is being, and this is not going to be a quote per se, but being aligned, having who you are aligned with your actions is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Being in work situations where you can do both, you're not, you don't have to pretend, knowing who you are, knowing what matters to you, and making sure your actions and your decisions, you're all one person, and it all fits together. That's not a nice quote, but that's probably the
No,
one.
it's great. I think from a team perspective, that's what we value as well, right? We want to know that our boss or our leader is going to be the same out of work, in work, under stress, not stress. Their core values won't change.
The values will not change, and you can live them out, depending upon whatever it is, big and small. Mm-hmm.
What's the best book or article you've read recently, and what was the key takeaway?
This is not a business book, but the book, it's everywhere, everybody's reading it, but it was really helped me, is Mel Robbins' Let Them theory. And it's helpful in the work setting because the idea is, one of the things I talk a lot about in change is knowing what you can control and what you cannot. Because most of us, if you spend all your energy on things you can't control, professionally or personally, you're going to be one frustrated person. And that book is really around understanding what is out of your control, and that you might work with someone who is a curmudgeon. Let them. They got to show up. They got to do the work, but they are who they are. You're not going to change them per se. As a colleague, as an example, somebody on your team, a little bit different matter, but it's more of a understanding what's in your control and what's not, and spending your energy on what's in your influence, your control. And that's something I work on that. I've worked on that forever, because I'll spend my energy on, well, if only, and we, blah, 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 blah. And so that book has really, really resonated with me personally and professionally. Really good.
Okay, last question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Whoo! Boy, a lot of
Pressure's
advice.
on.
The first thing that came to mind, I don't know that this is, I've been given better advice. Just because you can solve a problem doesn't mean you're the one to do it.
Right.
And I think that was you can look around and you see all kinds of things. Well, we need to do that, and we need to fix that. And you got to limit your time is your most valuable resource as a leader. So you got to be really strategic in what you decide to take on and what you decide to fix versus what you want to decide that you want to introduce. And I think I learned kind of early in my career, where you spend your thoughts and your energy is going to determine your contentment, your success. So that I can remember somebody saying that to me, and it was like, ding, ding, ding. Me. Anyway, that's the first one that came to mind. I could probably list off 10 or 20, but that's good.
Yeah. So Patti, this has really been great. If people want to learn more about you or engage with you, want to learn about your podcast, how can they do that?
Go to Patti B. Johnson with an I, pattibjohnson.com, and you can find out more information there, as well as how to reach out to me, and all kinds of info there. So, and it's been great, Clint. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for the conversation.
Good conversation. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Conversation. To find out more about Clint, go to clintonmpaget.com and pick up Clint's book, How Teams Triumph, Managing by Commitment, at Amazon. The Conversation with Clinton M. Paget is a production of Forbes Books.